I stole a question from the Northern Virginia Alliance for Affordable Housing and the questionnaire that they proposed to other candidates in the county. The legacy of discrimination and racism remains in many of our housing practices. In 2017, Fairfax County adopted the One Fairfax Pledge to view all programs, policies, and procedures through a racial equity lens. Identify strategies you would bring forward to achieve greater social justice and racial equity with regard to housing. And yes, you can have 2 minutes on this one.
Thank you. I think first is how we approach the actual causes of affordable housing. And it was great to see that in the recent budget that the amount of money allotted towards affordable housing has increased significantly in this current proposed budget. Initially, out of the recommendation was 10 to 15 million. That was nowhere near enough. Nowhere any indication of a real serious focus on addressing equity as it relates to affordable housing. With that being said, I think one of the first things we need to do is really look at strategically where it's occurring and what's needed most. Because we have affordable housing where it's a situation of seniors who are just being displaced or no longer able to afford their property tax. That's one separate issue. We have affordable housing that arises from gentrification where the cost of housing is no longer affordable, but they can't afford to stay in the community because rent is rising. We have a whole section of Route 1 built on renters. The landlords, they're just waiting. They're just waiting for all the good times to come, and they're gonna start unloading. That's really what's going on down in Route 1. It's a bunch of renters that are waiting and hoping they can buy out sometime until their child's old enough to graduate high school, until they can get this last child through high school, one more child through the elementary school. That's the reality of what's really going on down in Route 1. And what we need to do differently, what I would like to see what I would do differently, is really focus on not just one macro approach to affordable housing, but start dealing with it. Recently, Good Shepherd posted about how creating rooming houses is a good solution to affordable housing. But that doesn't address all the needs, does it? Is that we need short-term rentals to help our seniors. We need wraparound services so that people can kind of pull themselves up, and then they'll be able to have a viable job and afford to live here. Because if we have a workforce that is unable to live here and have a 2-hour commute, that's not going to work well for our economy. And so the affordable housing issue is multidimensional. It is not one issue or one symptom that's causing it. It's not going to be one solution that resolves it. But I do know this, that the voice at the table has to belong, that seat must belong to the community. And the only way that seat belongs to that community is if that person in the seat is out in the community talking, engaging, and addressing the community at their time, at their place, at their convenience. Thank you.
Has everyone here heard the term NIMBY? Yeah, that was new for me. I didn't know what that meant, and I'll let you know, it's not in my backyard. And that's what I hear is one of the most common things I hear as an issue for affordable housing. Everyone thinks affordable housing is great. We need more of it, but just not over here, not in my backyard. That's unacceptable. We have to balance the needs of zoning and density with people that have lived here for a long time and want to have their golf course, but we also have to prioritize the needs of people that have been marginalized and disadvantaged for decades. And that's a big problem, and I would definitely prioritize the people that need the help. For the Embark project on Route 1, the housing proposal to the board was that we have a goal of no net loss of affordable housing. That's not a goal. That's a bare minimum threshold. That's not acceptable to me. And also, whether I get elected or not, I'm going to be darned if we move people away from the Route 1 corridor because we have to tear down affordable housing, and we put that housing somewhere else in the county that's nowhere near the good public transportation that's coming here. We need inclusive, diverse housing in every corner of our county. We can't continue to have the haves and the have-nots and silos and red lines, which continue to this day, from inequitable policies and practices that we've had in our country from the national level to the state level to the local level. It's up to us to do better, and I think that Lee District could be an example of how we can do the bus rapid transit, expanded metro, and do it in a way where the neighborhoods that we create are diverse and inclusive and have everyone living together, hopefully with some equity.
So affordable housing is probably what I would describe our potential Achilles heel in Fairfax County. The issue is pretty broad and very specific as it relates to both the individuals and the companies that are trying to attract people into this market area. So we've got to do a lot of things. You can't have one solution to this problem. The penny for housing is a first step. I would argue that we need to do a little bit more. We need to raise possibly a second penny over time. In addition, we need to look at our regulations in terms of how we are allowing for developers to maybe get some parking reduction with regard to spaces in their developments, and the funds that they save from that could be used to build more affordable units in the project. We need to think about giving more density, so giving a higher density bonus for housing and allowing those developers or those entities that are interested in allowing for more units in their development to be able to do that. I've talked about this issue too for a while, co-location on public facilities, looking at the opportunity to place affordable housing units on future libraries, on future police stations and fire stations, and looking at a way for us to be able to use the savings and the cost basis of the land to buy down the cost of the unit, which then makes it affordable to the folks that would want to live there. So I think there's a lot of options that we have. We've just got to keep pursuing them. The one that I'll talk about just really quickly is Seattle. Microsoft committed $500 million to the city of Seattle to be used for affordable housing. I believe that we have an opportunity here in Fairfax County to talk to our employers, and we've already started having some conversations with a number of them. Capital One is one that's talked about the need for affordable housing for their employees, and there are others. So we want to leverage funding from those corporations to help us address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. The affordability, the housing affordability and the redlining and the equity issue is countywide, it's nationwide. We've seen it, Larissa talked about NIMBYism. We've seen that right here in Lee District. I sat in this room and spoke to the Lee District Land Use Committee. For the first time in 35 years, the planning commissioner stood up when they voted no on the Embark Richmond Highway Plan because they didn't like it. I stood up and said, no, this is better for the county, it's transformative, we must do this. I was the first planning commissioner and the only planning commissioner to ever have done that. That's the type of leadership you need sitting in the supervisor's office. We've gone through this before. We tried to do residential studio units, micro units in the county a few years back. We tried to engage Cap One. We tried to get SEIC. We tried to get the big name companies because it benefited their workers. Their custodial staff, their front office staff were coming in from Prince William, Stafford, and Fauquier counties. We wanted to put them in the neighborhoods here in Fairfax County. They didn't come to the table. We need to have another conversation with them to get them to the table moving forward. The board pulled that residential studio unit ordinance without it going through the whole process. Another thing that I think we should do is a booster shot to the Affordable Housing Fund. We can't just nickel and dime this every year. We need to have one big infusion of cash because money makes money, and we need to have public and private partnerships like we're doing right here in Lee District. Right up the road at Oakwood Road, we're doing a housing project with Arlington County, APAH, and the county are working together to put senior housing on Van Doren and Oakwood Road, which is right by the metro. They can take a shuttle bus down there. They have access to Kingstown. So those are the things that we need to do. We're a compassionate, caring community, and we need to put our money where our priorities are. Thank you.